Hi, I'm Ruchi Mukherjee, your Houston correspondent, bringing you details from the feature film Owl and the Sparrow and dialogue with the director Stefan Gauger. With me is the much acclaimed award winner director of Owl and Sparrow, Stefan Gauger. Okay.
Nice to have me. Thank you very much for having me.
First thing which came to mind, what inspired you to make that film?
The inspiration for this film was to do, first of all, like a love letter to the city of Saigon. So that's the city I was born in. That's number one. Number two was basically to do a film that was contemporary, because I think most Vietnamese films are period films, whether they're relating to colonial times or Vietnam-American War. But society has changed in the last 15 years because of economic growth and the opening up of doors. So I wanted to, the contemporary society is quite fascinating. So this is a film about three normal people in contemporary society just trying to find their place in the world.
Is there a big body of Vietnamese American films? If yes, what's the reason and what kind of films, the themes in those films?
Vietnamese American films?
Okay. Yes.
Well, yeah, there's more Vietnamese American filmmakers now than before because for a few reasons, there's more independent equity to make these films. The technology has become so improved that films can be made cheaper on a lower budget. And thirdly, for people like myself who were born in Vietnam, we sometimes have, I guess what you call going back to the cradle and going back to Vietnam to make films about certain things that are going on over there as well. And there are less restrictions now as Vietnam has kind of laxed its restrictions on what type of material you can shoot.
And what kind of themes are usually the focus point?
It depends. I mean, a lot of times Vietnamese American directors will do films that are based on refugees or immigrants because that's their own personal story. Personally, for me, I'm a little bit more fascinated with contemporary society there. And then, there's some other Vietnamese American directors that are purely genre-based, so they like to do action comedy.
The film has won many awards all around the world. What do you think causes it to restore with the audience?
Oh, well, I think it hits a nerve with the audience because it's very sweet and unpretentious. So, you have basically a universal story about a little child finding her place in the world and finding two adult characters that want to that are also lonely in their own way, and they want to kind of just become a family unit. So that's very universal, and I think anyone can kind of get into that.
Last one, your favorite moment in the film?
Oh, favorite scene. You know what? I've only been asked that once. I was really lucky to find a 10-year-old girl who had a natural talent, and anytime I put a close-up on her, she was fantastic. I don't know. I think it would probably have to be a scene with her. I think it would have to be a scene where maybe she and the two other flower girls are singing on the streets, because we shot that improvised. And when you shoot things improvised, you don't know what you'll get, but then you get happily surprised when it turns out well.
And what's the expectation from today's evening?
Tonight's evening is just basically to introduce the film to a Houston audience, because I haven't shown the film here yet. And we plan on releasing the film to the public here in a few months. So it's a nice sneak peek for them, and hopefully they can get the word out and support the film.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bộ mày tưởng mày có thể ra ngoài đời mày sống một mình mày được sao? Tao bảo đảm không qua một đêm đâu con.
Cô có bạn ở trong thành phố này hả? Gia đình con.
đây hả?
Chú chăm sóc có mấy con thú ở đây.
Chú có muốn gặp cô gái khác không?
Con tính bắn hoa như vậy hoài sao?
Con không biết.
Con trốn ai vậy?
How do you feel the film characterizes, well, I guess what I'm saying is like there's philosophical differences between the East and the West still. And when a Westerner watches an Eastern film, they may think they understand it, but they actually don't necessarily understand the thing. So, I mean, how well do you think this movie does at communicating to East or West? And who has to make more of a concession to view it accurately?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I made the film, I made it not for a Vietnamese audience or an American audience, but I made it for an international audience. So when I wrote the script, I tried to make it as universal as possible. So even though this film takes place in Saigon and has Vietnamese characters, I like to think that these characters and this story could have taken place in New York or London or Paris or any big city where people are lonely, because in essence we're all kind of searching for the same thing. We want to be loved, we want to love, we're looking for hope, we're looking for family, and that translates everywhere. So East and West, I don't think is for me a factor in this film. It's more of a universal story.